Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the same world as an anime podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun, the show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, RuriDragon. Welcome, everybody. This is Shonen Jumping the Gun. I am your half-dragon host, Kermit the Grog, along with my deadbeat dragon dad, D. Isekai Sensei Sama Brad. Brad, how you doing?
I'm so proud of you, son.
So not present, so deadbeat. And today, special guest star, my friend, lackadaisical homeroom teacher, Vizslaman. Viz, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
That's good. Viz is a longtime buddy of mine. We've got him on for something else that you've either already heard or will hear one day. Who knows? We put so many of these pre-recorded.
I don't know when that's coming out.
Who knows? Maybe you've already heard it. I don't know.
I'll figure that out.
We've invited him along for this. And as you've heard, we're talking about RuriDragon, which at time of recording has just come back from hiatus. One of the reasons because it came back, is that everybody has been talking this manga up since it went on hiatus. And I guess spoiler alert, because I usually like to end how many chapters it has at the end. It only had like 6 chapters out, and then the author had to take like a break. I think, almost a 2-year hiatus. First chapter came out June 12th, 2022, and at time of recording, there are 7 chapters. And at time of recording, that 7th one came out on March 3rd, 2024.
Yeah.
So,
really a long time.
But, we've covered a lot of manga, and, I don't think anybody's talked that reverently about any of them 6 chapters in the way that people in our community have done so. So I'm just like, what is this manga?
Here's the thing, though. I have avoided any actual discussion about
same.
this series.
I know nothing. I just know people talk about it reverently. Man, RuriDragon was really good. And I'm like, I don't know anything.
And so I was like, okay, I'm interested in it. And I read this first chapter and I went, I'm so confused.
I cannot agree more with that.
We'll get into it. I'm still confused, but let me do my Kermit's patented speedrun summary. And then we'll dive in, because there's things to get into there. I'm also just going to say at the top for this summary, this manga has big vibes and energy that make it charming in a way that my summary style doesn't really capture. And I just kind of want to apologize for myself to this manga right now about that, because there's a lot of times where I just go, the characters banter to capture they're having a funny little back and forth. Our main character, Ruri, is brushing her teeth after waking up and notices with surprise that she now has dragon horns. She goes out to the kitchen to ask her mom about them, and they have charming banter, there it is, where mom reveals her dad is a dragon. Most specifically, Ryu horns, but then she says dragon in English, and I don't understand exactly what that means, but I guess that's part of the mystery they're trying to solve. Mom asks if Ruri, if she'll go to school despite the horns, and Ruri decides to go. I mean, they won't kill her, right? Then Mom leaves, kind of mysteriously, in a hurry, leaving so many unanswered questions, and her usual shoes. Odd. Ruri is behind and hurries to meet her friend Yuka before they miss the train as she contemplates the horns and what her mom has told her. The manga really takes its time to ground this and a lot of the other little daily facets of it, which I kind of like. You don't see this a lot, I guess. Viz, I don't think you've read as many manga as we had, especially for this, these trappings of life you don't see in a lot of stuff, especially stuff running in Shonen Jump. So that was something that definitely stood out to me.
I don't read that many manga to begin with. But what manga I did read prior, this is completely different.
It's admittedly a lot different than the stuff in Shonen Jump. Okay, let me dive back in. Ruri finds Yuka, and more questions and bantering occur over the horns. Where did they come from? Are dragons real? Is Ruri a dragon? RuriDragon? They arrive at school, and already all eyes are on Ruri as everybody is staring and asking questions about them, including her lackadaisical homeroom teacher, and Ruri does not like the attention. As the school day goes on, more people are interested in the horns, waiting to touch them and take pictures with them. It's really too much, and Ruri is overwhelmed and exhausted from it all. She contemplates everything with Yuko over lunch, confirming it's just the horns that have changed and nothing else. Cut to later in the day where Ruri falls asleep in class after all the excitement. She's awoken by an angry teacher who has her read the next passage aloud. Ruri stands to read and sneezes, expelling a flume of fire that burns through her book and singes the boy in front of her's hair. The page turn and paneling this are fantastic. I loved that page turn. Even on tablet, that was just like, oh, that was a good page turn.
Yeah.
Ruri then falls to the ground, shocked, and begins coughing up blood, mentioning her throat before passing out. We awake back in the nurse's office, and Mom is finally here to help explain things. She drives Ruri home, and they talk about Ruri's day, making a point that she didn't hurt or destroy anything with her fire. They talk about
book.
What?
Except that book.
Except the book and some of the hairs on that boy's head, but like no property damage. Nobody's dead
back.
or burned. It'll grow back. Books will grow back. They're trees.
Yeah, books grow back.
They talk about how her mother never thought she was going to get any of the dragon features. She looked like a normal kid for so many years, and she was freaked out when the horn showed up. She apologizes for not telling her sooner. It's been just her and Ruri growing up, and Ruri feels hurt that the secret was kept from her. Ruri's mom actually met with her dad today. He lives deep in the mountains, so it's a bit of a trek, hence the shoes from earlier. When Dad was told, he was thrilled that his daughter was getting her dragon features, but seemed to not care about his partner. I'm going to assume they're not married. Mom, not wife. Assuming not wife. Mom's done her homework and can help with all the dragon stuff now. Also looks like Ruri's school friend life is doing well. We end the chapter making a clear note of the horns and the flame breath, but could there be more dragon features to come? ?
So I'll kick this off by saying I am so confused about how nonchalant every human being is in this manga.
Right?
I'm
glad that you noticed that too, because that was...
I read so much fantasy stuff, and the way all of these people are reacting is how people in fantasy settings react to things like this. But there's nothing we see in the entire thing besides Ruri and her mom talking about her dad being a dragon that is fantastical in any way. It's otherwise completely just normal Japan.
What are they going to do? I mean, I kind of dig that because it makes the weirdness of it again, like the getting the trappings of life, of the walking to the thing and all the stores you pass by and all that. Like, I enjoyed this in a really cozy way. I don't know yet why it's talked about. I don't know if that'll come.
I should say I did overall enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was very much a slice of life with fantasy in it kind of thing that they had going on. It's just that it pushed me a little too far into the this isn't believable realm with everyone's normal-ish reactions.
What do you think everybody would do?
I mean, she's growing horns. If you see someone...
The fire I can understand.
Yeah.
Okay, Kermit, how many people have you seen on the street just with horns?
I'm going to raise this point because Brad was present for this, so he can secondary. That one time we went to ramen and I had my ears on to prove a point, and you know what? Some people looked, but nothing happened. And I know it's obviously I'm just wearing them, but at a glance you could say the same thing if there's not fantastical things in the world.
But there's multiple people who they go out of their way to show that these are her actual growing out of her head horns.
But what do? She's still just a person that you know.
You call the government and say, "Hey, guess what?
You're gonna rat out your friend to the government."
I would, yeah. Sorry.
They also made a point in when she got to school that it wasn't a headpiece. Like everyone could tell that it wasn't like an accessory, because the teacher even noticed, the lackadaisical one who just doesn't seem to have a care in the world, but even he could notice. So it isn't just you're wearing it.
I don't know what what would you do past that's neat and weird?
It was part of her skull.
There's also the fact that if a middle schooler creates a firebomb in the middle of a classroom, the police are going to get called.
Okay, so when the fire shows up, that's when things change, and immediately she passes out and is taken from school before we can see really any follow-up on that. I will give you a point on that. I guess, I don't know. I was shocked a little bit by how chill everybody was, but like that was kind of captured in that vibe I was talking about, that it just had this like, oh, we're just kind of going back and forth, and like we're kind of like, I've never seen manga do the like late 2010s, early 2020s, like, or like I guess mid to late 2010s like movie mumblecore, but in like a good way, like something Michael Cera would be in.
So I'm gonna throw this out there. I think that this is an allegory for puberty.
I mean, yeah.
And I think the whole point...
Just what, she's in middle school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the whole point of people not reacting to it is the fact that going through puberty is a normal thing that ever happens to everybody. Now, obviously, that's a huge stretch here.
But she got all the attention. Like, yeah, but I think you're still right. I feel like that's what a lot of those teenage stories are. But I think she gets all the attention, which she doesn't like, which was like sometimes a very relatable moment for me. Like, I don't know. Like I said, it was just like an oddly like cozy. It's like, oh, she's overwhelmed by this, but not in like a really like I don't like this person manga anime. Whoa, wait. It was just like, oh, this is like a person dealing with some shit.
The horns, I think, are an allegory for how, like, over the summer, girls grow up and they come back to school and all of a sudden they have breasts.
Or they're taller.
And everybody's looking at them and going, except then they add on, like, everybody wants to touch them. And it's like, okay,
maybe
well,
you should stop with that line of thought, sir.
Those couple panels, that was a weird vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's like, I mean, I guess to that, where it's just like, hi, could you not? Or like that specific thing where it's like, oh, my friend can touch them, and then friend standing up of like, no, you stinky boys can't touch them.
And I was
felt
totally...
like a very like, oh yeah, okay.
The boys are not allowed to touch horns.
And then the teacher goes, can I? And I was like, no.
I had to read that a few times. I'm just like, I'm sorry, what?
They're horns.
So it's a weird mix of like an allegory, but also it's just a fantasy story.
Its own thing.
So I just had a lot of conflicting thoughts going on.
Yeah. Have we covered a slice of life on this show? There's not really a slice of life in Jump.
Not on Shonen Jumping the Gun. I mean, I've talked about slice of life stuff.
Slice of life stuff we've had on Book Club and Heroin Addiction.
And there's plenty of other things that I read that are similar in tone to this and pure slice of life and everything.
But just like by virtue of mostly covering stuff in Jump or Jump Plus, like I don't think about that. There's not really stuff like this.
Yeah.
Outside of like the gag manga, this is not a gag manga.
But I mean, there's enough going on that's like humorous in certain ways that it's like, and that's basically what slice of lives do, is that there's serious stuff in there, and then there's funny stuff in there, and there's wholesome stuff, and there's, it just follows those kind of same trends, but it's injecting in a fantasy element. I really need to find out more.
I know. I had to stop myself from reading more.
There's all this discourse going on about it that I haven't really looked into, besides people saying, "Oh, I really like it," and so now I have to figure out like what's going on.
What is the
here.
thing? It was like when people kept making like One Piece comparison godlike statements for Ranking of Kings, and we're like, what are you people talking about? And then we kept going. It's like, okay, I get it now. But there's that burning curiosity of like, people I know and respect are saying really nice things about this. What's in there? What is the gooey center that they saw that I have not seen yet?
So, I mean, I'm sure you two have this problem a lot of just like the first chapter doesn't really like.
Welcome to this show.
Welcome to this show. Admittedly, this one gave me a vibe and a charm, and a lot of them don't do that. A lot of them, admittedly, when you're trying to do a big adventure, some people try to front load all the exposition, but they forget to make it interesting or to make you care about the characters. So it's just sort of like a mess of a D-Day beach, like for a while, and most of those don't get to live past that.
Yeah.
It is interesting, like how they're setting this one up, because like to be 100% honest, until she lit the book on fire, I don't think I was having a whole a good time with it. The only thing that kind of kept me reading was like why is nobody reacting? This is kind of weird. Is this commonplace? I want to know more about this world where dragon horns are just oh, that's neat, and move on. And then when she lit the book on fire, I'm like, all right, you got me now.
I mean, maybe there's more of like, I mean, not like super commonplace, but if it's like he just lives in the mountains, like, I mean, that's here. I'm gonna segue this into where do you think this is going? Because they clearly like tell you at the end where it's like, here's 2 things on a list of dragon attributes she has now, and it's like, well, obviously she's going to get more dragon attributes. Why would you make a list of 2 things at the end of the chapter to go, waka waka, this is what we know now? Like, you don't make a list of 2 objects.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who writes lists at work a lot. Yeah.
List,
I mean, I don't...
Will this... The big question I have, because I don't... Like, literally all I have is the cover, which is just a picture of her with the horns making a face. And I don't know any other characters that are going to show up and be, like, coming back. I don't know any other powers or if she gets wings at some point. I don't know. I've heard... I've somehow dodged the discourse outside of people being really positive about it. Will this become a battler? Will other legendary kids show up and will they, like, fight or solve problems? Will this stay cozy and slice of life? Like... I have no idea. Like, I don't know if we had one that was this like wide open, but maybe we've never had one where we truly... I mean, we've had ones where there's only one chapter and it's like, I could kind of go this way and that way. But here it's like, I don't even know what genre this is going to be. It feels like it could pivot mad easy.
Turns out this was an isekai all along.
Don't you give him that. Do not give him that. He will take it and he will get his greasy, gross fingers all over it.
Hey,
get his stink on it. His isekai stink.
She wakes up one day and her whole world is different.
Yeah. But it isn't. Everybody reacts real chill.
I'm interested, Viz. You know, Kervin and I consume so much manga,
especially
and
first chapters in Jump.
Yeah, I'm interested in your perspective on this, like not having a whole lot of touch points to look at, like how your experience reading this was.
So the first couple panels, the dialogue was kind of like the big turnoff for me. I wasn't getting like as much humor, but I reread it before we recorded, and I picked up on the mom was saying Ryu, and she kept saying Ryu. The daughter said, "Oh, a dragon," and like, no, not the American, or like a Ryu, or like I don't need the English translation. So then it was followed up by a scene of her passing koi kites. So I don't think we're
keen eye. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get a Western dragon. So I don't think she's going to get wings. I think she's going to get like cloud walking. She's going to be more of a evolution of a koi dragon. That's probably the wrong word, but
that's a good point.
That's an astute point.
We definitely have an idea in our head of what dragons are, but there's like
they also
lots of different
invoke
kinds.
Both of them.
Well,
but you like Viz, you make a good point, but that just makes me more curious about where this is going, what this is going to become.
Western dragons don't typically have like horns, though. That is typically more of an Eastern dragon thing. Like they'll have scales and they'll have like a crest, but they don't normally have horns.
Yeah,
true.
In fact, in my thinking about like all these different kinds of dragons that I know of, most of the time, dragons that do have horns, they're more like antlers.
I was just gonna say, I literally was just talking about dragons recently, and somebody mentioned them Eastern dragons having antlers, which I'm like, yeah, that's boss. I love that.
And these aren't even like a traditional sort of like rhino horn, or like this is more akin to like an oni horn.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, that's what they are now. Who knows if they will? Like, I'm curious to see. I'm curious when we see. When we see Dad, what Dad will look like.
Well, there's also like they could play it off of like what elemental dragon is the father, and like speaking about the horns more, I was getting more like it almost looks like metal. So like, is that part of the dragon physiology that it has like a metal aspect to it, like a silver dragon, because we see fire dragons or red dragons, blue dragons, white dragons, but like media wise, silver dragons, I don't really see a whole lot of them, and you could do like a silver metallic-y dragon.
Yeah.
There could be other types of dragons.
Well, whatever kind of element it's related to, she's still blowing fire, so.
Yeah.
It's going to turn into a battle anime, I know.
It might, because it looks like it's not a good manga, and we didn't cover it, but I know both of us have at least read that first chapter. It was like Tokyo Demon Bride story or whatever. Like,
I actually never read that.
Oh, well, here's a future episode.
Oh, great.
Viz, you want to be on one that's not good?
That's already canceled.
Exactly.
I'd love to.
That one, I freaking spat that thing out.
Complain.
It's great. It's terrible. And it's already dead, so we get to spit on its grave. But, like, that one, it doesn't feel like that. I mean, this one I think is a lot better grounded and written and isn't stupid. But, like, I don't know. I love this sense of I need to keep going, and of like just burning curiosity. Not like, and not even just like not that through like dislike, but like, okay, that was solid. I need to know what this is, because I don't know yet. I've read so much manga. I have such a sense in all things where it's like my instinct tells me, oh, you kind of get the feeling it's doing this or doing that. Even if I don't know the particulars, I have a sense of like what it's supposed to be. And here it's like, I don't know what shape this is. I don't know where this is going. I don't know this is like, thank God it came back so it gets to keep going.
Yeah.
Or at least we got a chapter after 2 years.
I'm going to make a complete shot in the dark prediction.
Go for it.
As to how, like, what the next few chapter beats are going to be. She's going to see her dad. Her dad is not going to be a dragon. He is going to be a koi in a river in the mountains, which is why the mom had to, like, go all the way out there. And it's going to be something like, oh, I lost my powers because I'm passing them on to you style thing.
Oh, because it's, with the koi, because it's the Magikarp Gyarados thing where they go into the waterfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or they go up the waterfall through a torii gate.
Yes. Horns are kind of like a torii gate.
Not hers.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe.
Can I just say, this mom is a freak.
What? Oh. Why is she a freak?
She had a kid with a dragon.
Yeah, I haven't seen him yet, but he's probably hot.
You played D&D?
Have you seen dragons?
As far as we know, there's no other mystical creatures in this world. So, like,
yeah, Viz, good point. Invoking Shrek. I'm in danger, I'm in danger, and I'd get in on that.
She finds a mystical creature and she jumps its bones. Like, what do you?
We don't know we haven't met him yet. We're calling him a deadbeat just because he's not. I mean, clearly he doesn't really care about her that much. He cares more about his offspring, but we don't know. This is the joy of only having one chapter. This is the show. This is the point. But in this case, it's
if
like
he's a
it's
koi,
intrigue.
it would kind of explain why he's not around, because he has to be in the water. And like, oh yeah, that's your father in the aquarium. Probably not the.
I mean, maybe. I mean, she kept it a secret because it would be like, then you'd be like, when am I going to be a dragon?
I guess.
Oh no, the koi fish is asleep. Flush it down the toilet. No, that was your father.
Dad, that's Dad.
If there's really no other kind of like mystical creatures or anything, or mythical, I could use either of those
I think
words,
there will be.
Then the fact, like her mom just going like, by the way, your dad's a dragon, she'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? But when horns suddenly come out of her head, it's like, okay, well.
The topic is broached.
She also mentions, like, dragons. Aren't they fictional? Like, it's like I'm in the same boat as Brad. It's just like there's got to be some other like mysticism in this world.
There is. I think she just doesn't know it yet. There's other manga where they don't, like, you in the beginning. You're like you because you always assume you're working from your world if it looks close enough to it, but you're not always working from your world.
Right,
and that's the joy of one chapter. We don't know.
I just want something else in the world to make me go, okay, this explains everybody's reaction now.
Viz, do you know what that breadcrumb is? Chapter 2.
Yeah, right.
And then chapter 3 after that, and then chapter 4 after that.
And this is the problem that we keep seeing with these, is that most chapters either give you way too much or not enough.
Yep. But this one, I'm on the hook.
I prefer ones that are not enough, because like if they set it up, you got me hooked.
I'm charmed and I'm curious, and that's the best combination I can be.
Sometimes not enough is actually not enough.
Yeah.
A lot of times not enough is just the hook you need.
It's the right, yeah. If you know what you're doing, you can do a good thing instead of a bad thing. How about that? Let's
hey, it turns out good writing is good and bad writing is bad.
Yes. So
lesson learned. Wrap it up. We're done here.
With that, our feelings and predictions, we're going to do flop pool. So Viz, I will explain to you. So when the naming is from when a manga is canceled early, it is called a flop. It didn't do well. I mean, anything that doesn't do well can be called a flop, but that is the particular name that is chosen. So I have a little voting system to collect data from people. I'm on another Discord called Shonen Flop, where they cover manga that has flopped.
If you'd like to play at home.
If you would like to play at home, you can go to their Discord. You should also come to our Discord, but you can go to their Discord at Shonen Flop. And play at home when a new manga drops in Shonen Jump. You can't play with this one. It's already 7 chapters in. It's too late. And I wasn't around in 2022 to do that. So the voting levels are, at the bottom, Dead Walking, dead in 20 chapters or less, an early grave, a flop, granted a stay of execution, under 50. It'll Live, hangs on just past flop zone, sub 120 chapters, solid, series that does well but doesn't reach true popularity, hit, truly popular with an anime and hundreds of chapters, and finally the Supernova, an industry shaker and shaper. Readers want to be with them, other manga want to be them. So, with that, what do you think? And this is not necessarily capturing your feelings, this is capturing do you think this will live in the magazine or it being put out?
Yeah, and this is the difficulty of this portion of the show, because all of these things that we're most of the things that we cover are in a magazine for Japanese teenagers.
Yes.
Specifically Japanese boys, most of them. And so it's up in the air. Like, we could really like something, and those Japanese teenage boys just do not.
Yeah, you get to learn. We've had sports series we like that they just don't care about. I had one about MMA that I loved, and it just died a death, even though it was really great to the last moment. But they just didn't give a shit about it.
Now, this is in Shonen Jump proper?
I think so.
Because that's important. Because so if this was in a different magazine, I'd say this is a hit.
That's always the thing, yeah. Oh wow, big words.
But because it's Shonen Jump, I'm just gonna go with It'll Live.
Okay. I'm gonna go solid. But mostly, like, I don't think if something wasn't doing, like, and this is admittedly some like vague future vision, future vision. If you can do 6 chapters and then wait 2 years and then come back and be welcome back and just like, yeah, pick up where you left off.
See,
that speaks to something. And I know I shouldn't be using future vision, but like, I'm trying to pull it in because it's like, I don't know.
The thing is I almost feel like that might be more of a bureaucracy thing more than anything else.
You think?
Yeah, like, hey, we hired you to do this thing.
Well, I feel like if it wasn't good and people didn't like it, that's the easiest time to just go, it's been a while, start something new.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something there.
You have a slot, but you just don't need to come back to it. But clearly there was, in 6 chapters, there was enough something there 2 years later to go, you had to take that medical hiatus. Now that you're back, you can...
It could also be better. Like, it was close enough, so we'll give it more time.
We'll give it at least the full to the 19, so, yeah.
Let them cook.
Yeah.
All right.
Viz, what's your vote?
So, I was going to say that it will live until Brad mentioned you have to have the mindset of it's for teenagers in a manga or a magazine read by teenagers, and I'm going to say it's going to go one step higher, actually, because of that. Because, like, the thing that turned me off the most, again, was the dialogue. I just was, like, it's very, like, teenage dialogue to me. Like, if I was a teenager, that's fine. Like, I would be, eating that up. So that's why I'm thinking it's just going to be a little bit higher than It Will Live.
So a solid, you would say? Yeah. We're in agreement on solid? Yeah. I mean, some of mine for that also goes into, like, that grounding of it feeling very, like, this is you getting on the train like you do when you go to school, Japanese teenager. But I'm also curious how it is going to be having a female lead for it.
That's my thing.
And that's my curiosity, because I know it's Shonen Jump, and I know they say it's for boys, but I know when Maxie's talked about when they used to do the surveys that it was like almost 50-50.
Yeah.
And then the boys club got too embarrassed that girls are reading their manga because they're tiny little baby men, and they stopped doing those surveys. Maxi B is the guest we had on My Manga Senpai. Very knowledgeable human, Maxi B.
We obviously have to read more chapters,
Yep,
but
as soon as you leave, Brad, I'm reading more chapters. I've been waiting.
I think
dying.
There's something to be said about like all teenagers, not just specifically boys, but mostly boys, reading an allegory for puberty.
Yeah, we all have to go through it.
I don't know that that's something that they're gonna latch onto.
I don't know. We never know. We thought they'd like MMA and they didn't.
That's true.
They might kill greens. I don't know.
On the other side of that coin, it's boys will go through puberty too, and it's awkward for everybody. Like, I remember going through puberty for me. I became very tall and lanky. I'm like, how do my limbs work again?
Relatable teen experience. Maybe a boy character will show up next chapter because we haven't had a boy character.
When a boy grows their horn out, it's just really bad.
Don't make me get the spray bottle, Brad. I guess with that, we'll quick capture emotion. So starting from the bottom, your choices are: please die so I can spin on your grave, even worse, bad, meh, it's fine, good, great, amazing, and I've only known this manga for a chapter, but if anything happens to this manga, I'll kill everyone in this Discord and then myself. So here, Viz, I'll let you open the floor on this. What are your feelings on this? What are your emotions?
I'm gonna label it as good. Like, I think the breadcrumbs are there to make it great. I don't think it's there yet. But again, first chapter, who knows?
Yeah, I'm on the line between good and great. I think if the subsequent chapters give me the information I so sorely need, I think it'll be great for me. Right now, with one chapter, I have to go with good.
Yep, same. I have good with the very real possibility of upward mobility. Literally one chapter.
Yep.
With one more chapter. I do feel like from that sense, or I guess Brad and I have kind of expressed that we're going to read it. Viz, you don't read as much manga. Would you read? Are you going to read chapter 2 of this?
I'd give chapter 2 a read, just to see what happens.
Normally when we cover new ones that we don't like them, I always have to clarify hi, we're in the flop death cult where we read garbage that we know will die, but we need to be there to document its dying week by week.
I mean, that's not how I work, but yeah.
Yeah, I do that a little bit. So it's and these are also the people I'm talking to in that community. So it's if you didn't have the death cult, would you of your own enjoyment read this? Are you reading this because you want to be involved in the conversation and then you've already read the series when they talk about it on the podcast, or would you read it because it's actually good?
Viz hasn't been around to know that the overall goal of this podcast is to find something that I will not read.
That's the the one of the not the end goal, but one of the things is Brad is too forgiving to things, and he will never say I will stop reading this. He says I will read it later, and then he'll never read it, and one day he'll die, and he will have not touched a single more chapter of Golden Kamui, and I'll spit on his grave for it because we know you're going first.
I read On the Emperor's Lap.
You did. You read garbage.
But I've never been a part of a death cult before, so that sounds fun.
We have cookies, so
without chips.
I will say I don't think I would have ever given this one a second glance if not for Kermit saying like, "Hey, check this one out." Yeah. That being said, I would read the second one without any like the second chapter at least without any other pretense. So if you two wanted to talk about it more or not, I probably would still read it.
Okay, yeah. That's a promising of continue reading. So
well, hey, I'm listen to this podcast if you want to hear other stuff you might want to check out.
Yeah. Listen to our Astro Baby chapter episode dropping next week, which I guess spoiler alert for you, even though. If you hear this, it'll be after the Astro Baby. I voted that one emotionally. I've known this manga for one chapter, and if anything happens to this manga, I'll kill everyone in this Discord and then myself, which is not a rating I give out lightly. But oh my gosh, do I love Astro Baby a lot.
It's pretty good.
You should also just read Astro Baby, Viz. It's really good.
It's better than Spy Family?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
It's only just started. There's like
such
that's
a loaded question.
That's like when the flop.
That's my bar of new manga now. Is just like Spy Family had me absolutely hooked. That is one of two that I will be like salivating for the next chapter.
Then read Astro Baby, because every Friday I go, please chapter, and he goes, no, I'm in Jump Plus. I come out when I feel like, and I go, no.
I think Astro Baby is definitely up there. It doesn't quite reach the Spy Family level.
No, but I think it needs more time to cook. I really want more chapters, Brad.
You sold me.
Comparing anything to Spy Family.
I know. I mean, again, it's when the flop guys go, is this better than Chainsaw Man? It's like, you cover flops. You had one episode that you were on, Brad, where there was actually a question in that question, and it's never a question. None of it's ever going to be better than Chainsaw Man. They're dead manga. So yes, that has been today's episode on RuriDragon. Which admittedly, to your point, Viz, of you read it because I suggested it, I'm only reading it because it came back and that my community and people I respect said that it was good. Because I passed over it the first time that it was around. And I'm only reading it because Kermit said, hey, we're doing an episode on this. Yeah, and I'm happy I did. Gets me to read all the new stuff. To its credit. Most of it's garbage, but some of it isn't. When more chapters come out and people start talking about it heavily again, I probably would have picked it up at that point. There's probably going to be a thread for it. If not, I'll make one. But up until now, I wouldn't have unless we were doing this. So, but yeah, that has been our episode. Thank you, everybody, again for listening. And Brad, hit me with the plugs. So yeah, as always, we want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. And they got all kinds of cool stuff you can't get outside of Japan. Our listeners can check the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off their first order, which also helps us out. And of course, everybody can let us know what they think on social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can also leave comments on the episode posts up there, as well as find other posts and reviews. And of course, we got a Discord where you can come chat with us. It's bopping. It definitely is. Lots of good chats and new people joining all the time. Yeah. I just joined. Highly recommend. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Vias. And of course, everybody should check out our Patreon. Supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series we cover on heroin addiction, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the episodes early. And, of course, we want to hear what everybody wants in their perks. Here, the Patreon shoutouts. At our Reincarnator tier, we've got Cake Dwarf and Moon. At our Merchant tier, we've got Kill Hour. And last but not least, at our Commoner tier, we've got Rena. Thanks, Patreon shoutouts. Thank you, everybody, again for listening. Make sure you go check out the Mainline podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated, in the same world as an anime podcaster. And I also want to extend my thanks to Viz. Viz, thank you for joining for this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. And, oh man, I gotta go to sleep, and hopefully I'll wake up with dragon horns. Have you ever done podcasts before? Nope. This is the first one I've ever done, so thank you. You can say whatever the hell you want, realistically, if you then stop and go, oh, wait, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. Just say that, and I can cut stuff out, so. So, I do have one question in terms of, like, language. You can say whatever you want. You can swear, but I wouldn't suggest going like, fuck, bip, bip, bip. Like, I wouldn't. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to Shonen Jumping the Gun. It is I, your... Dang it, I forgot all the things I was going to say that I prepped for this. Give me a second. That's normal. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. This is Shonen the Jump... Shonen the Jump. I'm getting worse at these. Jumping the Gun. Gun Shonen. Gun Jumpers. Welcome to the Gun Shonen. Brad, I don't. You continue to have not written how we end this on my whiteboard, so I don't remember what we do here.
This is where you say,
This is where I say the same thing every time.
Do the plugs.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you, everybody, again for listening. And Brad, hit me with the plugs.
Yeah, except I forgot to pull them up.
Yeah. Give it a second.
Where is it?
It's funny that the things I do every time are the things where I'm like, I don't remember what I'm doing.
How do we do this? We're so professional.
That was the funny part of the last Bakabanashi we did, is that we had people on and we were talking about what constituted an isekai, and it was a big shit show mess, but that was the point. And when we got towards whatever the end was supposed to be, we didn't know how to end it. Cause it's like, I have so many other podcasts that are structured, but this has no structure. How do I land the plane? And there was just a lot of screaming and yelling.
I thought my ending was pretty good.
It was good. I'm not saying it ended poorly. It was just, I had that moment. I'm like, I've recorded so many podcasts, but they have a specific ending and a thing you do. But here, I don't know what I'm doing. There's no end.
Dragon Soul.
Ruri. Oh, man, R.I.P. Pour one out.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that when I just said that.
Yeah. I feel weird about that podcast episode. I don't have to feel weird about that one.
Moment of silence.